There is a misconception of street harassment and catcalling that it's a compliment or that it's flirting, and I do think a lot of people are still clinging to this line of like some catcalls are okay and then some catcalls are harassment. So people will say that hey beautiful, hey sexy, hey hottie are compliments, but they won't defend like I'm gonna fuck you. Whereas in my view, and I think most folks who face harassment on the streets view, is that they don't want to be objectified, sexualized, or commented on in public space. I would say a lot of what I think about when I think about growing up in New York was my experience with catcalling that impacted when I would go out, it impacted what I would wear. When I was 15 and I was going to my summer job on these long avenue blocks, like so many men were saying inappropriate things to me. They were saying things like good morning, they were looking me up and down, they were saying hey sexy, making like sounds, and it was so concentrated because there were so many of them. And I genuinely thought in this moment I must have been doing something that made it my fault, that was drawing attention to me. The catcalling continued, it never stopped. I mean, it still continues to this day. I think what became really frustrating was that there was no way to respond. I felt really powerless, I felt uncomfortable. I don't know if I actually learned about catcalling and street harassment until I was doing more research about it in college when I was taking classes where I could write about my experiences. I started Catcalls of NYC for a school project. I had so many of my memories from that summer, just being 15 and walking in downtown Manhattan. I decided to start writing down the word-for-word phrases on the street with colorful chalk and taking pictures and posting them to Instagram. The idea behind the chalk was to show people in a really bold, bright way, like what was happening and what was being said. I wanted to also show people a range of comments. Like, for example, that summer, a lot of the comments had been like, hey, beautiful, hey, sexy. And then when I was in college and walking with my friends, some of the comments were like, I'm gonna finger fuck your pussy. Like, I kid you not, word for word. So I wanted to show people some catcalls are extremely vulgar, extremely sexual, violent, scary. In terms of the social media platform, it's grown a lot. At first, it started out really slowly. It was mostly getting support from my friends. So it didn't even start to get support from strangers really until like 2 years in, about right after the Me Too movement. We started getting all of this media attention from like BuzzFeed, BBC, all of these big news platforms. It literally grew from having like a few hundred followers to having 10,000 followers overnight. People were messaging me who I didn't know saying, this is important, I love what you're doing, I'm gonna send you my story, and saying that it meant a lot to see someone taking action on this issue. What we're doing, it's online and it's also in person. So as the movement gains visibility and gets more popular, I do think that it makes us feel a little bit more vulnerable to hate, to trolls, to online harassment, and then potentially to very real threats and risks to our safety. Some of the heaviest moments in the movement is when we see how something like street harassment, which people so often belittle as just words, no big deal, turns into something with deadly consequences. Shifting this feeling of like being silenced and not being able to respond to catcalling to actually doing something really proactive and writing down my experiences has felt really unapologetic. Like, I like boldly going into public space and writing on the street and upsetting people, because that feels like a way to reclaim the voice that was taken away from me by catcallers. I would say that when I think back to my first experience, something that was missing was recognizing that it wasn't just happening to me and that it wasn't somehow my fault. So building a community does just that. You see that other people are facing the same thing as you, and it makes you feel more motivated to make a change, because you realize it's not something you're facing, it's something that is happening to a lot of people that's not okay. I think it's more about pointing out these overarching structures and like, why are men taught that it's okay to catcall? And how can we, as a collective, shift these cultural norms? I think it would be really beautiful if everyone could just enjoy and thrive while being in public space, wearing what they want, expressing themselves, showing love and affection to whoever they want. When I think about a world free from street harassment, I think we would be able to have stronger communities where everyone is enjoying public space together and feeling more connected to each other.